Hello, I'm Helga D'Souza. I'm a seasoned project manager, and I'm here to help folks manage their projects, whether they have experience, whether they're starting out, or whether they're not project managers at all, but need to manage projects as a result. So today I'm going to touch on risks. Now, in the previous video that you will see here, we had discussed about creating risk register using AI tools. So I went through Claude, I went through Gemini, and I went through Copilot. So please, by all means, check it out. Today, what I want to do is explain the elements of what you would expect to see in a risk register, discuss what a risk is, and look at the risk matrix. So let's get through those things first. Okay. So first off, you will probably hear the term risk. You probably know what a risk is. It's pretty much self-explanatory. In projects, you'll come up with risks or you'll come up with issues. Now, risks can be detected even before you start a project. So you might be aware of perhaps there could be a risk of, you already are aware of organizational resource issues, or there would be a risk where if we don't meet this regulatory date, we'll be penalized. There'll be those type of risks, okay? And then there may be risks that may come up during the life cycle of the project. Perhaps we'll find out that we need to engage a vendor in the middle of a project. It can happen. Or we need to find out that we are running out of funds. So we need to engage the budget team to release funds. And that will, of course, put the project at risk if we don't get those funds in as soon as possible. So those are some examples. And then you probably heard of issues, okay? Issues are pretty much risks. They are risks. They do impact the project in the sense that they do impact the project. They are ongoing issues that need to be resolved. They're usually ones that already occur. They probably have already occurred with the project, or it'd be something that would occur after the project gets implemented. So, for instance, there'd be an issue of sales are not going to get much commission from this new product you're launching. So as a result, there'll be a low incentive for them to sell. So that'd be an issue. There would be an issue, for instance, this team is going to deprioritize your project because the business office of another department will bring it to the executives to make that decision, and then they'll deprioritize your project. So that could be an issue there. So hope that makes it clear for you. Okay, so that is risks and issues. So let's look at the risk register itself. I'm going to show you the one that I had created from Claude because it's very detailed and it's already in a template. So let's look at it right now. Perhaps I will, and away we go. So you notice there would be a risk ID. This is something that Claude had created. That's up to you. You might have your own system, a risk tracking system, an automated system, or maybe you just do this as your own tracking system, your own internal numeration. So you can do that. Of course, naturally, I had this as a source because this was a Claude situation. You probably would not have this. You're most likely to have a risk category of, what type of risk does affect, what type of department this may affect. So you could probably have a risk category in there. What your description of the risk, keep it very, basic, or, summarize it quickly. You don't have to get into much detail, but summarize what the risk is and how will it impact the project, okay? And then the likelihood, impact, risk score, we'll go into that in a moment. Of course, you need to put in, based on the risk score, it will probably show up what the status, the severity is, and I'll go into that with the risk matrix. And then, of course, the status of the risk. Is it what's going on with it? Right now, it's open. And then you can have different statuses. You can do open, you can have in progress, you can have close, use whatever statuses you want. So this is pretty flexible. And then, of course, naturally, you need to have a mitigation strategy. Even though you have a risk, you always have to have some sort of work showing that there's some work being done to help mitigate the risk. So what is your strategy to help mitigate this? And then is there a contingency plan? Is there a discussion of a contingency plan? You can log that in. You don't really have to have this, but this is just to show you, if you want to get into more detail, depending on how you're set up. What would you like to have this closed by? So that's your target resolution date. And then, of course, you put in some notes and open items. So this is just an idea of how to structure this. You don't have to have it this way, but naturally, the key things that you need to include is your description. You need to obviously say who the risk owner is. You need to say what status it's in. You put in a mitigation strategy if you can, and of course, notes and a target date. So those are very key points to have in a risk register. Now, I showed you what the risk register is, and essentially what all it is just the risk, your lists of risks, okay? I'm just sorry. I guess it's playing with that. Okay, now we're going to look at the risk matrix itself, risk matrix heat map. So very, very critical, obviously, is a very solid red. Then you get into a very light red when it becomes between major and moderate, depending where it is. And then you get into yellow, where it's in progress, it's being worked on. And the pale yellow, again, it's getting close to resolution, or, the risk is being, monitored well, managed well. And then, of course, here is you're monitoring it. It's not going to really hit you hard, but it's monitoring that. So that's why you would have it in green there. Okay. So these are things to keep in mind. So when you're identifying a risk, you need to say what color status is it, what health it's in, or what color status it is in, so that you could highlight to your sponsors if something's really, going to curtail this project, or it's going to be a huge impact, and so forth. So another thing I need to explain to you is likelihood and impact, okay? So likelihood, you might see probability as opposed to likelihood. So probability is usually used. You would have a high probability that it's going to occur, medium probability that's going to occur, or low probability that's going to occur, but you need to just keep an eye on it, okay? Impact is, what is the impact to the project itself? Is it going to hugely impact your schedule? Is it going to hugely impact the quality of what you're delivering? Is it going to put this project on a stop? So these are things to look out for, or if there's going to be a huge impact to the business, the department, the organization, okay? So look at these criteria. You would say likelihood is, the likelihood of it happening. I have the likelihood, which is the probability, is up here. And then, of course, no, let me switch that. Here is the impact. Down here is the probability, okay? So, negligible, it's going to have a low score, of course. And if it's rare, it's going to have a low score. So that's how the matrix works. So it looks at what is the probability of it to occur, and also what is the impact to the project or to the organization, okay? And then what Claude has done is it also had listed some action items as well. So again, that is probably something you could probably log into your notes on the register. You don't have to have a separate item here, okay? So hope that helps you out with managing those risks. Keep doing your project management. You're doing a great job, and I'm here for you, okay? Have a great day.